Hello, pursuers, and welcome to another episode of the Pursuit of Happiness podcast. I'm your podcast host, Naz Kazimi. We have some recaps that we're doing today. We're going to be recapping some of the new shows, and we have two that started. We have The Valley, regular style, okay? And this is the one with Janet, and I can't believe she's the first name that I remembered, but it's the one that Jax and Brittany had kind of created. And Jax is no longer on the show, but we have Janet and Jason, Nia and Danny, whom I love, Kristen and Luke, Michelle, with Jesse, and then Jesse's new girlfriend, Lacy's on it. So it's a really dramatic episode. We're going to get into it. It's just right off the bat, it's interesting to watch. I'm also going to recap. Yes, the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. I say we, but I'm including you in that because it's just me here. And sometimes I trip myself up when I say we. I'm like, wait a minute. I hope they don't think that there's somebody else. But really, I mean us, all together, the pursuers and I. The Real Housewives of Rhode Island, it did not disappoint. Right off the bat, again, it was great. And it really hits home for me because I grew up in a city in one of the suburbs of Vancouver. And the city's name is Burnaby, and to be more specific, North Burnaby. And at that time, there was a huge Italian influence, and Asian was just starting to become predominant. But a lot of the Italian families that we knew from back then have kind of either dissipated or moved to different areas of the city. More particular like Port Moody area, as their kids have grown up and they've gone off and done their own things and the parents downsized. But it was such a Italian community that I grew up in. And that's why I find that I gravitate a lot towards Teresa Giudice, because she's just like that old school kind of Italian mom. And I grew up with a lot of not only parents that like kids that I went to school with that reminded me of their moms, but also she reminded me a little bit of my mom. And on top of that, she reminds me of the girls that I went to high school with now that are not like necessarily old school, but like with the big hair and like it's just kind of comforting, it feels like home, you know what I'm saying? So, and then at the very end, I kind of want to get into a little bit of Ladies of London because I didn't realize that another episode came out yesterday. I guess I'm a week behind, but there was another episode, and Ladies of London is so good. You guys, if A New Reign, if you're not watching it, get into it. It's so good, as Mark Francis would say, darling. Like, I love how he stretches it out. Like, he's so English. I love it. Anyways, The Valley. So as we all know, Nia had her fourth child and Kristen had her first. And these babies are so cute, okay? Adorable. And, by the way, Lala and Schwartz are on The Valley. And what's funny about Schwartz is, so we see Schwartz last night on The Valley season 3. And then I was catching up with House of Villains today because I love that show. I watch it. I love Joel McHale. He's like a dream. Like, he's just a funny older guy, like tall. I don't know. I love him. Anyways, and I love a guy that can make me laugh, by the way. And Joel is just, he hits the mark. But anyways, not to mention I used to watch him on E! When he used to have that, when he would do the headlines and like comedy stuff. But he does House of Villains, so I've been watching it pretty much consistently. And then, so this is another show that you have Tom Sandoval on, and I like Tom Sandoval, and I know the whole like play out with him and with Scandoval, and now we have Scamanda, but I'm kind of glad that he got his groove back and he's giving all these opportunities. I mean, he might not initially have been given as many opportunities as Ariana had or got or received, but he definitely did receive opportunities, and it's nice to see him kind of bounce back and people see the real him. And I love Tom Sandoval, and I love Tom Schwartz. So last night they had this thing where, okay, if you watch it, you know that there's a hit list. And so Kate Chastain is on it as well. Of course, Kate Chastain is on it. She's another one that like hustles and gets her bag, But Kate Chastain was on it, and she had picked this guy Tyson from Survivor to be on the hit list, and Tom. And part of that is because Tom and Tyson are like allies on the show. Like they support each other. They're on this, there's no teams. Everyone's really individual. In the end, only one person wins. It's not like Traders where you can win as a team or individual. There's only one winner in the end, but you make allies in the hopes that they vote for you. And then at the very end, they bring the people that have been voted off to come back. So it's really in your best interest to play the game, be a gamer, but at the same time, not be so mean that when the entire cast comes back, similar to Survivor, I haven't watched Survivor, you guys, in over 10 years. But what I do remember is that towards the end, when there's very few people left, like I'm thinking less than 5, they start bringing the old people that have been kicked off or voted off the island. They start bringing them back, and now they're able to vote for who they want to win. So in these type of games, this type of strategy is very important, that you are just overall play the game, but not be too crazy to hurt people in the process. Like, play the game, but don't manipulate and really lie to people's faces and hurt them and intentionally manipulate, if that makes sense. It's hard because you're manipulating people anyways, but you know what I mean. Like, there's a reason why towards the end, even though that person has played, let's take Rob, for example, even though that person is the villain in these shows and like there's last man standing, somehow they still get voted. It's just that they're charming. Use your charm rather than like just really cutting deep and being so deceptive that it's just you're unbearable. I would say that's the best way that I can say it in the best words. Like, don't be a fucking cunt, pretty much, okay? Like, in layman's terms, because that's not going to help you win, right? So anyways, with that being said, so you have Tyson from Survivor on the chopping block because they did something to Kate Chastain. So they want Tyson out because Tyson and Tom are this duo. They vote for each other, and Tyson's a very strong player. He's one of those people that's been there from the beginning. And people keep, like, Drita's on this from Mob Wives. Remember Mob Wives? Drita's on this episode too, or on this season. But even they're saying, they're like, every time we try to vote him out, somehow he gets back in. But that's Tyson. Like, he's a gamer. He's very, like, charming when it comes to, like, persuading people to vote for him so that he doesn't get voted out, essentially. Like, so him and Tom, ironically, are both on the chopping block. They call it a hit list. And then one other person that's there is Christine Quinn from from prior seasons of Selling Sunset, because for the past few seasons she hasn't been on. So these 3 people are there. Now they have to do a challenge. And if they do a challenge, whoever wins that challenge is not on the hit list anymore. So they kind of get themselves out of the hit list, which is kind of what everyone wants. It's kind of like Survivor having a shield. I mean, not Survivor, Traders, like having a shield. Like, you're free from being banished or not banished, but you're free from being banished and I think murdered, when you have a shield. So anyways, sorry, I'm digressing. I'm losing my focus here. ADHD is ADHDing. So you have these guys, and then what they did for this challenge is they invited them to bring, and surprisingly, Joel wasn't on this episode. I think because Joel is filming, because he's on a TV show, he's filming. So I'm just realizing now that I didn't see Joel once on this episode. But they brought someone back from season 1 or 2 to kind of host it. Anyways, they're allowed to bring people back to help them. So they selected their good friends. So Tyson has one of his friends from Survivor come on, and that was the guy that helped him get to the very, very end. And then in the end, Tyson wins. Christine Quinn has Davina come on. Now, I haven't seen Davina in like so long either on Selling Sunset, but apparently they're still friends. And then the whole reason why I started this rant, and I totally digress, but now I'm back to my point, is that for Tom Sandoval, they brought back Schwartz. And it was just so funny to see, because just last night, because I watched House of Villains this morning, because I was like, new episode, let me see what's up. But last night when I watched The Valley, I saw Tom Schwartz, and it's so good to see him. He looks good. He's healthy. He looks a bit chubbier. Last time he was on Lala's podcast, like a while ago, I'm talking like a few months ago, might even have been 6 months ago, I heard that he had a girlfriend. But again, remember I say that, like, you hear these things, but then in real time, like, do these things pop up on your stories? Do you see them like in the Bravo News? No. And I don't really hear about him having a girlfriend. And on top of that, now that The Valley has started, which we'll get into, it seemed like him and Michelle were flirting. I don't think that anything has come out of it because, again, you don't hear about it in the tabloids and whatnot. You don't see it, but I'm pretty sure that he's single again. So it's just nice to see these people that we watched for so long come back on our screens, and now with the so some tea, Tom is being sold. I think Lisa Vanderpump is still going to do Vanderpump Rules because I loved it. Remember, I was recapping it. It was a good brand new season with new fresh faces, but I think that she's spending a lot more time in Vegas, and I've heard through some rumblings that they're opening up a hotel in Vegas. So this is the next chapter of her life, and guaranteed we're going to have a show out of there too. Guaranteed there's going to be a Vanderpump Rules Vegas edition, okay? Mark my words. But anyways, no, it was good. Let's get into the Valley, in which we all know that LVP is also, I think, executive producing on the Valley. But so first of all, the very, very first scene starts off, and I didn't take notes. This is just off the top of my head. I'm remembering. Starts off with Brittany and Cruz. It's so cute to see Cruz. He's such a good-looking boy, and I know that he has autism and that he's, neurodivergent. I want to say neurodivergent because it just encompasses, it's just much more rather than singling people out. But he's neurodivergent and he is not speaking quite yet, although you can see that it's coming around, his speech. I feel like eventually he will. I don't think that, and I don't want to say he doesn't look like he's autistic. Well, of course not all of them look autistic, and how does even one look autistic, right? But I really feel like he's coming around. And from what Brittany mentioned that was going on in the house, there might have been a little bit of unbeknownst to the parents. I think Brittany's aware, but maybe it's just something that is a little too personal, so she's not going to bring it to the show. But guaranteed he witnessed some of the drama that was going on in the house, and that kind of made him recluse his speech a little bit. I'm no doctor, but I really am hopeful that he's going to come around. He's going to be speaking fully. He's going to say, "Mommy, I love you." Because for even Jacqueline Larita with her son, Christopher, I know that this is such a big area of conversation when these kids can't tell their parents that they love them or speak back to them, or just so their parents know how they feel. Like it sucks. I can't imagine that, because trust me, my kid tells me every moment how she's feeling. So anyways, good to see Cruzy there. We obviously are not seeing Jax. Jax is off. I really haven't even heard from Jax. He hasn't popped up on my socials, nothing. My algorithms do not show him, and it doesn't matter to me either. Doesn't matter to me either way. Brittany has a man, or did when the show was on air. I don't think she's with him anymore, from what I've heard when she does her podcast and whatnot, that she's single, but she did have a man. She's always kind of like the dark-skinned guys, the African-American guys. I mean, she is from Kentucky. And I remember when she first came on the show, and then her and Jax would have fights, she would mention that she dated darker guys before she dated Jax. Like, Jax was the first, non-black guy that she dated. But she's back to what she loves. Which is great. Don't we all love a little bit of chocolate? Wink, wink. Anyways, with that being said, then we see everyone else. We see Janet with Lala, and Janet explains to Lala, Brittany was having a pool party and Kristen just had a baby. So I knew that Kristen would be there, but I just assumed that Kristen would be inside with the air conditioning. But I guess Kristen didn't know that Janet would show up, because then it shows Kristen's confessional simultaneously. And she's saying that, that she was told by Brittany that for sure Janet wasn't going to, there's 99% chance that Janet wouldn't show up. So anyways, when Janet did show up, apparently Kristen made a big scene, baby on her boob and everything. She came out yelling to Brittany, why is she here? She doesn't deserve to be here. I don't really know the details. They're just kind of saying the incidents that went on in their head. And so Janet, realizing that Kristen's yelling about Janet, she's like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in this space, especially with her son there. So she left. But she was upset that she had to leave. And this part, it's understandable as a parent. You're telling your kid, we're going to go there. We're going to be playing in the water. We're going to see all your friends. Because obviously they're a group of moms and all their kids are friends. And then all of a sudden you get there and then you have to leave. And I don't want to get too much into like how to parent, but some parents don't want to tell their kids, look, there's an issue and it's time for us to leave. Like it's too young for them to understand stuff like that. Like their brains don't process. So she left, and her son Cameron was in tears because they're all the way over there. They had gotten ready for this day of swimming, but they couldn't enjoy it. So, I mean, if that is the case and it went down exactly like that, I mean, Kristen, you could have just stayed inside. You know, like you guys are going to film a show together. So what, you expect that whenever Janet is going to show up, like that would have been a good kind of way to prep yourself for filming with her, you know? If you guys are always going to be together, like just think of the kids. Don't be so kind of selfish like that, because if you end up saying, I'm not going to film with her, I'm not going to be in the same room when there's filming going on, then what's going to happen is it's going to end up like the Real Housewives of New Jersey, potentially even like the Real Housewives of Miami, where certain people don't want to film with each other, and then the show gets canceled or put on pause indefinitely, and who knows how long that's going to last. So that seemed a little bit selfish on Kristen's part. I get it, postpartum anxiety, all the things, but I would just wish that she'd reflected a little bit more, or at least Brittany came in. And like, I'm not blaming anybody, but someone needs to be the voice of reason in situations like this. Be like, look, eventually we're going to be filming a show together. Let her just be outside in the pool with her son, and you just stay inside. You know, you guys don't have to talk to each other. It's not like you guys are doing this for the cameras anyways. Like, it's just you know, because then that puts Brittany in the middle, you know. And as much as I think sometimes Brittany rides both sides of the fence, and I kind of agree with Janet, and when Lala questioned her when they all went out to eat with Michelle, they're like, how come we couldn't have stood up and said, like, Kristen, don't do that, like, or you don't have to yell and like cause a scene, because obviously Kristen's her friend too, but like pull her aside, be like, listen, I made a mistake, I didn't realize you guys would actually both come, so now that she's here with her son, let's just think about her son. We don't want to like cause a scene, you know. Something like that should have been said. Don't make it about the adults, make it about the kids at least, so that the kids could have had a good time. But yeah, so that's how that went. And I'm not saying I'm sitting here defending Janet, because I think Janet is insufferable. What's funny is I really haven't heard much about Sheena talking about Janet, whereas before she would talk about Janet a lot. I don't know if that's just on purpose, keeping the Shenanigans podcast just strictly not reality show stars, but or potentially could be because she's hanging out with Lala during filming, so Sheena has kept her distance. But it's just interesting to see, because Janet really came on this show because of, and in this world because of Sheena, you know. So it's just interesting to observe that we haven't really heard anything, even in real time. And I follow Sheena and all the algorithms, so nothing has kind of pointed in that direction quite yet. Anyway, some other interesting things is we see Michelle, her and Jesse are still going through their divorce, so technically still married, but Jesse is dating Lacy, and now Lacy's on the show. And it actually showed us how that episode of Yamashimo, am I saying that correctly, when Michelle had the kind of end of season like spiritual party, like to be all zen, that Lacy showed up, and you could hear Lacy in the background be like, well, I haven't signed a release, I don't want my face on it, because they did film her. I think now that she signed the release, they are able to show that footage, but she showed up at the very end, and it kind of makes me like, so not me going into the season liking Michelle now, because I've heard from other podcasters that they still don't like Michelle. They're kind of like going onto the side of Lacy, but something about watching her show up at the last minute, knowing that Jesse is there, but not wanting to sign a release, sending everyone cease and desists, even exes in her life and ex-friends, just rubs me the wrong way. And then she goes up to Michelle, and it was just so awkward. It's like, why do you want to be such good friends with Michelle all of a sudden? Like, I don't think that what Michelle is saying is lies. I think the truth will always come out. I like to see a little bit, it's nice to see a bit more of a calmer Michelle, you know? Like now this season, she did admit that like Aaron wanted to date a fitness girl, and she's not really into fitness. She's like, didn't she meet Aaron hiking or something? They're like hike buddies or whatever. They would always go hiking on that mountain. But it's really nice to see that she's kind of taking the time to just figure herself out. Her and Schwartz had a little flirty moment, but I know that's not going to go anywhere. And if it does, great. I think they'd be great. But you can just tell, again, because in real time, you don't really see posts and things that are happening about them. It's not like The Bachelor where everything has to be hush-hush. If people start dating, we would see that in real time and know that that's what's going on. So that's kind of the situation there with Michelle. But yeah, we do have Lacy now on the show. We do see Nia and Danny. I love Nia and I love Danny. I think they're a great couple. They have their fourth kid. Nia and Kristen go out for lunch, and I really resonated with Kristen when she said this. And I know that Nia's on her fourth, and I wasn't with anyone when I gave birth, so I wasn't asked to have sex, because I was single at the time. But I do know that after you give birth, you are not feeling like yourself, and it's hormones and it's all these things. And I also suffered from postpartum OCD anxiety. I wasn't depressed, but I had a lot of anxiety. Like I couldn't sit still. Like I was driving around all day long. Like my mind was constantly racing, and you don't feel like yourself. Like I couldn't wait for 6 weeks to come around so I could start going to the gym. And then I started going to the gym at around like 12 weeks, and then my milk dried up quick because no one told me you got to keep drinking tons and tons of water. So after like 4 or 5 months, I couldn't even breastfeed anymore. But I was just so happy that I was able to do something to get back to my body. And then shortly after, so I had my daughter in 2013. In 2014, I participated in a bodybuilding show. So I had to give myself that sort of a goal to get back to my body because it felt so weird, like alien-like. And a lot of people love being pregnant. And although I wouldn't mind being pregnant again because you know that you're going to be having a child, it's not something that I go around being like, I love being pregnant. Like, of course I loved having my daughter inside my belly and like feeling her kick and all those things. Of course you love that. But like your body changes and it's something that you can't control. I already have a hard time controlling my body when I'm not pregnant. Imagine then when you're pregnant, you really kind of let go of all control. Like at least now, like if you're not at a certain way that you want to look, the question becomes, well, what are you doing that is preventing you from getting there? Like the onus becomes on you, like you just don't want it that bad. But even if you want it really bad when you're pregnant, you still can't. And I know a lot of people that work out and stuff when they're pregnant. That just wasn't me. My bodybuilding career started after my daughter was born. Prior to that, I was just kind of like someone that worked out. I wasn't like a bodybuilder. You know what I mean? So I understand where Kristen's coming from when she's talking to Nia and saying like Luke wants to be intimate, but I can't. And I also on the other side, and me being in the sex entertainment business in my 20s and a little bit in my early 30s, I understand the need for men to have to pop their rocks, so to speak. Okay, I don't want to get too vulgar here. I get it. It's a biological need. And if men weren't so biological, there wouldn't be the sex entertainment industry, Yes, men. And I'm a woman that loves my sexuality, which I'm straight, but like I embrace it. I love it, But I'm just saying, like, I can still control it, whereas I know that some men can't. They should be able to, but sometimes biology just takes over when it comes to them. Biologically speaking, men are just supposed to like. God, how do I say this without sounding vulgar? Because when I speak about stuff like this, I say it so bluntly that it turns people off. But they're just supposed to kind of bang it out and reproduce, But I guess having that intelligence as a species, like you should be able to control it. You can manage your schlong for an extra more few weeks so that your wife or your partner feels comfortable after they've had a kid, I just wish that more men understood that and not put the pressure on the girl. And I know maybe for him it's just asking, but for her it feels like pressure, because the reason that it turns into pressure in our minds is because we feel like we're letting someone down and like everything is dependent on if we do or if we don't. So that's why it's called pressure for us. But it's just, even Jesse said, this is what happens. It's a lull, even though his name's Lolly. It's just a lull that you go through when you have kids. So I'm pretty sure that they'll work it out. The funny part was that how Gigi, who is the Gigi, who is Lala's mom, thought that Sosa, which is Lala's second child, looks like Luke. And then Luke saying, yes, I did go to that sperm bank, and I do have a business degree in finance and accounting or something like that. It was just so funny. But I also saw that when Kristen was on Watch What Happens Live with Andy, I think it was probably yesterday's because that episode just aired. She said that Lala's batch, quote unquote, was a lot fresher than Luke's when Luke was in college, because that's when he donated his sperm to that sperm bank. So interesting. It's just funny, but she does kind of look like Luke. It's the light eyes, you know. Anyways, so the Valley, it's looking good. They have a sip and see for Nia and Kristen's babies, and Adelaide and Kaya, and it seems like that's when Lacy wants to go up and chat with Michelle. And Michelle was nice, like, despite her being like, I don't really want to have anything to do with her, she was still being nice. That's, you know, yeah, you're filming a show, and then, you know, we see everyone there. I didn't see Jason the whole episode. Obviously, we're not going to see Jason and Janet at something that Kristen and Nia are hosting because the way that they left off. But I also didn't see Jason the whole episode and very little of Janet. So we'll just wait and see how the episode of the season plays out. But I love Jason. I think he's great. I don't really like Janet. And I know, like, let's give her a chance. You're only as good as your last episode. Like, personally, as a viewer, I don't like her. As someone that's recapping the shows, maybe next episode she does something where I'm like, yeah, maybe. But like even Michelle, I'm kind of turned on. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could like her. I could like her this season. If it's between Lacy and Michelle, I'm gonna obviously pick Michelle. So yeah, I like her. But I can't with the Janet. I can't with the Janet of it all. Let's get into the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. Wow, so good right off the bat. I'm impressed. First of all, Jo Ellen reminds me of every girl that I went to high school with. They look alike. Jo Ellen was great. She's kind of like the drama queen. Like, she doesn't hold back. And not that they're in part of the mob, but it's giving a little bit of mob wives, like that energy where like they don't give a fuck. They say what they say. There's a girl, Rosie, who used to be like a weather girl on one of the news stations there. Then it's like Ashley from The Bachelor. Liz, who's like twins with Dolores. And in the show, she mentions that she went to Dolores' surgeon. So that makes sense, how they kind of look alike. Like the skin color, the eyebrows. It's just, even if you go to the same surgeon, like sometimes faces tend to look the same, but like they have similar features too. It's weird, you know? Like, how does that work? Crazy. Then there's Alicia. And she's really good friends with Kelsey, and Kelsey is a sugar baby, and she admits it. She's like, and that, I respect for saying that. Like, she was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm dating this guy, and they blurred his face. But then later, if you go on the internet, which I did, I went on I wasn't trying to look for it, but it just popped up because of all the other bloggers and podcasters and fan accounts that I follow. But you see who she's dating, and it was the son of Frank Caprio, Judge Frank Caprio, who recently died. But anyways, he's not that good looking. Him with the blurred out face made him look way more good looking. Not my type at all. I'm sorry. But anyways, like the tall, dark part, sure, but the handsome part, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Yeah, and just not my type, looks wise. But you know, like, she seems to live a good life in the sense like she gets whatever she wants. But you know, the saying goes, like, money doesn't always make you happy. Like, you have all these things, but she admitted that this guy goes to Florida, like he's home half the year, and the other half of the year he's in Florida, probably when it's cold in Rhode Island, like in the winter months. He's like a snowbird, because that's what we call Canadians that fly down to like Florida and like to the warmer states, or just the Canadians that fly south or drive down south or whatever, because during the winter months, like, we call them snowbirds. So he does like that snowbird life, and while he's there, he has another girl in Florida, and she was really open and honest about it. So you can only really give people props for being so open and honest about something like that. But she also is saying, like, she's in her 30s and she gets bored and she's ready to settle down, and she doesn't know what the next move is for her life. So you can only respect people for being honest about that, coming on a platform like this and being honest. So right away, damn, good show, you know? Another juicy thing is that we hear that Jo Ellen's husband had dated her sister in high school, and then she had a crush, and there's a couple things about this. Remember, I'm from that world where, like, if you just, with this whole summer house thing blowing up, and even like with Scandal, but Scandal was a little bit different. Like, it was kind of an affair. Summer house is a little bit different because it's not necessarily an affair, but it's like breaking girl code. You know how we're all talking about all this. Talk about breaking girl code. That was your sister, so your sister dated him. A couple things. That was in high school. Yes, I think it would make more sense just hearing this and being like, okay, her sister dated this guy in high school, potentially could have slept together. Years later, they bump into each other, and now they're into each other, and then they date and they end up getting married. That would make sense. But Joellen specifically said that she had a crush on him in high school, and she was always trying to approach him, blah, blah. And finally, he noticed her and says, "Aren't you so-and-so's sister?" And she's like, "Yeah." So there's the older sister of Joellen dates him in, I think his name is Gary, dates him in high school. And that's when Joellen is kind of into him as well. And then shortly after gets serious with Joellen. And then after high school, they end up marrying. But then there's such a different timeline because then also I hear like Joellen worked at a tanning salon and she was dating, she was sleeping with the owner and then started sleeping with the owner and his wife. So like into these orgies, and there's rumors spreading that she's a swinger with her husband. And it's like, it's so good. Like it really just went off with a bang, you know? Then Dolores makes an appearance. First episode of Dolores is there. And what's funny is that Dolores met Liz at a cannabis event. So I thought they were friends for many, many years, and maybe they are, but they didn't. They just said that that's where they had met. I thought like just maybe through the Italian community, but yeah, Andy did not lie. He did mention that this was going to be a spicy show, and like we've been waiting for a dynamic like this to just pop off since Jersey left, you know. And even with Jersey coming back, I don't know if we're going to see it so dark or down the same road that it had gone before, because I feel like for the first few seasons back, the ladies are going to be on their toes. And not that they would fight with each other, but not be so malicious, not be so cutthroat and like go so deep, because it's the first few seasons back and they don't want it to get dark again, because now that's the lingering dark cloud, so to speak, that's looming over New Jersey's head. But it was really good to see it. I knew that Rhode Island would be good. I just didn't think that it would be so good. I always loved when the new franchises come on. It's just so good to watch. I always watch it from the beginning. Something about Housewives, like I can do. Southern Hospitality, I couldn't. Some shows, it took me a while. Like I remember Summer House, I got into it when the twins were on, those two twins. And then that guy that was really good friend, the gay guy that was really good friends with Lindsay. That's the season that I started watching. Prior to that, I couldn't really, I was like, I can't really watch it. And I never really went back to watch it. But then since I started watching, then it was really good. But all the Housewives shows I watched from the beginning, and they don't disappoint. And usually the first season's always the best, you know, because they're so innocent. They don't really, what's it called? Realize how they look on TV. Like they're not that conscious quite yet of that. So they're really themselves. And then over the years, they start to clean up their act, you know, as they're on TV a little bit longer, they're able to see themselves. And then 2 to 3 years in, you see them really start to be a little bit more performative and produce and hold things back or expose certain parts so much and then hold other things completely back. Like it becomes a little bit more, yeah, that's the perfect word, self-produced, right? So anyways, first episode, great. Yay. I know that we have Atlanta coming up, so that's going to be exciting. So I can't wait to be all the newer shows I'll recap in one episode, and I'll keep the older shows in one as well. Let's quickly get into Ladies of London, because I just want to recap this, and I know that I said I'll keep all the older shows together, although Ladies of London is fairly new. I just didn't realize that another episode would come out so quick. Things are heating up between Margot and Mark and Kimmy. But one thing I won't get too much into it. I'll get more into it the next episode, which I recap, I'll probably do another Ladies of London episode. But one thing I want to say is I've kind of been really hard on Kimmy, saying that, you know, she's hiding herself. She's not really letting herself get too vulnerable, because she was kind of mean about what Missy had said about her brother. But what was really nice to see is towards the end of this episode, so Martha had a party in a park, like a little picnic in a park, and Margot attended, and so did Mark Francis, and Kimmy and Missy and Lottie and her husband. Everyone was there. Micah, I love Micah. I'm really loving Micah. Like, she's one of my favorites on the show. Her and Martha. My daughter says Martha too, but I love Micah. The only person that wasn't in attendance was Emma because she's in Nairobi doing her marathon. But I really love Micah. Micah went to see Emma before she left. She made her like this really care package for her marathon running. You know, like, what a thoughtful gift. On top of that, she got all the ladies to send a message to Emma for, you know, doing her marathon in Nairobi. And I just think, like, honestly, like, Dara or Dara that was on the Asian girl that essentially was talking bad about Micah, and Micah was her friend for like, what, 20 years? They knew each other from Florida. Dara lost out because that is a good friend. And so what if she's a little bit like quirky? I don't think she's awkward at all. I don't think she's cringe at all. I think that she's just a bit quirky. Like, I think that the way they introduced it, because even when I watched, okay, why would she bring walkie-talkies to Dara? But then as you kind of get to know Micah, you realize that she is the type of person that brings gifts and is very thoughtful, and like, all her gifts have meaning. They're thoughtful gifts. There's a intention and a reason behind it. She doesn't just aimlessly buy gifts for people. Like, there's a thought, intention. I had a friend like that. His name was Mike. He bought me a Tamagotchi once. All his gifts are really thoughtful. He listens to what you say, and based on that, he purchases things for you, you know? But with that being said, yeah, that the walkie-talkie was like the first episode. We're like, why the hell would she buy her a walkie-talkie? Is she obsessed with her friend? We didn't really have much background. But now that you kind of get to know her, it's like it came from a really thoughtful place. Of course, that's her best friend, or so she thought. Like, she wanted to kind of have this kind of like inside joke. Like, you know, like, I do the walkie-talkie over the Apple Watch with my brother or my daughter. You know, like, it's just a quicker way of us getting a hold of each other. I'm just saying, like, there's intention behind it. And for Dara to make it seem like it's because Micah's a weirdo or strange, I really think that it's her loss, and she lost a really good friend, because I don't think Micah really lost much. She might have lost like 20 years of friendship with somebody, but like, lesson learned. And like, I really think that it's Dara that lost the friend, because Micah's so thoughtful and generous and kind and always thinking about her friends. And even when people ask her like, what was so and so saying about me, she doesn't make it messy. She just says, well, she expressed that she was a bit concerned. Like, even the way, and I know that she's the etiquette queen, but even the way that she expresses her gossip is said in a way so that it doesn't cause more tension. Like, she's not lying. She's being honest. She's asked. She's on a TV show. But she doesn't make it too messy. Whereas I find, like, sometimes when people kind of relay information back and forth, as we've seen through, like, Orange County and sometimes Beverly Hills, like, the person that does the relaying, that wants to be the force, Giselle on Potomac, they want to be the force multiplier. They do it in a very wrong way. It's almost too messy. It's almost too gross and disgusting. It causes too much conflict. It doesn't have to be that way. You can always reiterate what someone says. And instead of making it so much more dramatic, what they said, you can always tone it down a little bit with the words that you use, you know? Because I think when that happens, you realize that you're just being honest to the person that's asked, but you're also not trying to start shit at the same time. Does that make sense? But anyways, clearly that's what Margot did with the whole Missy and Kimmy situation, and I think that's why Kimmy's upset with her. But anyways, where I was going with this is that you see Kimmy break down at the end of it, and she cries. Now, mind you, they were drinking all day because there was a confrontation between Mark and Kimmy with Margot, and Mark was kind of just being his little sassy British self, and it was funny to watch. But Margot wasn't taking it as a joke, but you could tell, like, even the way that Mark, I can tell when he's kind of like maybe had a little bit too much to drink, and even Kimmy, because Kimmy's fourth wall. And by fourth wall, I don't mean like fourth wall, like production fourth wall. It's like, you know, that glaze that people get in their eyes when they've drank too much, and like, they're not looking, like they're looking at you, but they're not seeing you. They're kind of like looking past you. Kimmy gets that quite quickly. And I have noticed she kind of drinks a lot at these events. And, you know, I'm not trying to judge so soon, but it just seems like she's quite a bit of a drinker. And maybe her tongue gets sharp when she drinks. But you did see her kind of break down at the very end of the episode, because after she'd gotten into it with Margot, Martha was like, why are you being like this? And then she got upset that Martha was taking Margot's side, and she cried. And even Missy's like, oh my gosh, she's showing feelings. And sometimes, so let's be on the other end of that, like being Kimmy. Sometimes I'm like, so why do I have to get to a point of crying and tears for people to think that I'm human? Why can't they just take what I'm saying at face value, you know? But then seeing it from the other side, just looking at Kimmy, she did kind of seem really standoffish, and like she got triggered so quick. And it's just a good reminder that these types of people are the most sensitive. And that's what I said from the beginning. This time I learned my lesson. I was like, the reason that Kimmy doesn't like that Missy talks about something so personal and so emotional is because probably out of the entire group, Kimmy is the most sensitive. So for her, she has boundaries over those type of vulnerabilities and things to share, because it cuts too deep for her. Something's probably happened in her life where she doesn't want to get into it, and when she will, we're going to realize that it's a projection. That's why she's acting this way and not liking that Missy brought up something so emotional, because something just as bad, or not, if not even worse, has happened to Kimmy, and that's why she perhaps has boundaries around sharing such vulnerable information right off the bat, or while she's drinking, or to people that she doesn't know, you know? But that's her prerogative, and if Missy wants to share, then that's Missy's prerogative. But we're not going to get into that. It was a great episode. Good to see. I really loved that show too. Lots of good shows on at Bravo. I'm kind of glad that it's branched off a little bit off from the Real Housewives, but lots of tea and drama and things going on with Bravo. You guys watch these shows. I just want to remind everybody that these are people's real lives, and let's just not cyberbully people. Like, I know we all have opinions and stuff. Like, geez, start a podcast, do an Instagram live, but to go on these people's social medias and more particular now that the whole Scamanda thing is going on. I hate that word because it's really like just isolating Amanda, but I just feel like we have to remember that these are human beings, and these are people with feelings, and that we don't know what they're thinking. We only know what's been done. Like, no one's heard their side of the story yet. It's just, let's wait till we hear. And we're allowed to form judgment. Of course, this is reality TV. This is stuff that we watch. I have a whole podcast. Some of my, almost half of my episodes are me recapping my guilty pleasure shows, because I don't have this kind of drama in my real life. But at the same time, like, I try to make it that I'm just giving my opinion, but it's not like cutting people through the throat and stabbing them so hard into the back that it starts to affect their mental health. No, like, there's a line, and when these kind of scandals break out, or we start forming our opinion about certain cast members, and we like one and we don't like one. I know that Rhode Island's going to be pretty polarizing for that. Like, let's just remember that these are still people's real lives, and I would love for them to continue to share their real lives. So I don't want to push them to the brink of being like, okay, I'm either off the show or I don't want to share anymore, because it's so entertaining to watch. So just keep that in mind when we're watching these, okay? But with that being said, thank you so much for listening. Next week we'll have 2 recap episodes, because it's going to be the new shows with the older, and then the older shows will have their own. Please, if you love this episode, please share it, subscribe, like, share anywhere that you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify podcasts. Like I said, please share, please comment, please rate, subscribe. Like I said, share. Come on, find me on my socials. Send me questions. Send me your thoughts. I would love to hear from you guys. Because like sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that really watches. I try to get my daughter to watch, but she's still too young. She's on her Roblox half the time, and I just really want to like get into it, With that being said, thank you so much for listening, pursuers. I will have a Dear Nas segment coming out in the next couple days where I answer some pursuer questions. It is Good Friday here in Mexico, and the streets were dead. I tried to go to the gym, and the gym was closed this morning. So noted for next time that there's a holiday. It is a Catholic country, so they take their Good Friday and probably Easter Monday very serious. We will be in church for Sunday, my daughter and I, but have a great Easter long weekend. Have a fantastic Easter, and I will see you guys next episode, pursuers.